And the American Jewish Committee recently questioned young Americans ages 18 to 29 about anti-Semitism. More than half of them said they were unfamiliar with the meaning of the word. That shocking finding comes as anti-Jewish and anti-Israel sentiment proliferates on American college campuses and even in the halls of the U.S. Congress. Well, here to set us straight is the executive director of Passages, a group that connects Christian college students with Israel and the roots of their judeo-christian faith. Scott, it's always good to have you with us. So the boycott, divest, and sanction, the BDS movement against Israel, really began and spread on college campuses. Anti-Semitic speech is allowed, while those who speak in favor of Israel are often silenced. So tell us what you've witnessed about this rising hostility on college campuses, and why do you think it's happening?
Well, Gary, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be with you. It's truly an honor. You're exactly right. This did start on college campuses. And, I think something that we've seen time and time again with our Jewish friends on campuses, and when our Christian students come back from Israel, we help engage them with their local Jewish community on the campus, because simply more and more young Jewish people, Jewish students, are afraid to be Jewish on their campuses. They're afraid to wear any kind of outward signs. I think that exists beyond campus, but specifically on campus, it's a scary place for a lot of our Jewish friends. And that just can't be. We can't let that sort of sit back and let that happen. And so, it's very important that our students understand what anti-Semitism is, and when they go back to campus, to build bridges of friendship and allyship with their Jewish friends.
And all they have to do is ask their Jewish friends because they know what it is when they see it and experience
Absolutely.
it. But I mean, this is shocking. They can't even wear a kippah on college campuses. And I've heard even some young Christians say just because they're unsupportive of Israel doesn't mean they're anti-Semitic. But how do you respond to young people or anyone who says that?
I think it's important to understand that the state of Israel is a product of the Jewish people, their efforts at self-determination. Obviously, you can be critical of Israel. You don't have to agree with everything Israel says or does. No country is perfect. But certainly to support Israel, to not support Israel's existence as a Jewish state, is really a whole other matter. And as allies, we have to support what our friends believe that they need, and we know that they need, which is a Jewish state that is safe and secure.
And it isn't just college administrators and professors influencing college students, Scott. How are some congressional leaders shaping young American attitudes about Israel and the Jews, especially on social media? What are they doing? How does that make a difference?
Sure. Well, I think it's all over society, and I think it didn't come out of sort of nowhere. Obviously, this has been brewing for years and years. And obviously, there are those out there on campuses and all over the place that would not agree that Israel has a right to exist. And so I think what you see is just, in Congress or wherever in leadership is just a product. It's really ultimately a symptom of the foundational issue, which is there is anti-Semitism, and it's been around for a long time. And of course, since the state of Israel was founded, there's been criticism at its existence. And so I think it's a product of what's been happening and what's been happening more and more.
And we see it more now because of social media, I think, just as it's
Absolutely.
out there where never before. Yes. So what is your group Passages doing to help turn it all around?
Young people are becoming more and more separated from the Holocaust, from the founding of the state of Israel, and also separated from, a lot of the theological views of their parents. And so, therefore, it's not been on their radar. And so Passages aims to really, number one, provide a strong faith experience and help them to discover the roots of their faith. And number two, to help them encounter Israel and the people of Israel. And so we take them on these trips, these 9-day trips over to Israel. And of course, they visit the holy sites, but they also visit the people who live there today, both Israelis, Israeli Jews, Israeli Arabs, Palestinian Muslims, Palestinian Christians. And so, one of the things is we want to show them Israel for what it is. We want to show them the reality of it versus what they've heard on social media, versus what they've heard in the mainstream media or on their campus, wherever it may be. There's room to support both a Jewish state and the self-determination of the Jewish people, as well as peace for Israelis and Palestinians. It's both. And so we take them, we show them, they come back from the trip, We provide additional educational resources, opportunities to lead, and opportunities to learn more.
Okay, up close and personal, the way to build relationships. Okay, Scott Phillips, Executive Director of Passages. Thank you, Scott, for setting us straight today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Gary, for having me. It's been a pleasure.